Starting our recording. Okay. Well, that's a very good question. Ramananda Prabhu has brought up so many acharyas, but in Srimad Bhagavatam, right, Krishna says, I am the acharya, right? This is a famous verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Acharya mam vijaniyam navamanyeta karhichit amartya buddhya suyeta Sarvadeva Mayo Guru, right? That you should know the Acharya to be non-different from myself, right? And never disrespect him, do not see him with material vision. All of the devas, they are living within the Acharya, within Śrī Guru. And yeah, it's an excellent question, right? Because Krishna is saying, actually, I am Guru, right? And then by that, he's also saying Guru is one. But at the same time, so many persons take that role, right, to act as Guru. And what is coming to my mind now is Srila Sridhar Maharshi explains this very nicely, and I think we can probably find in Śrī Guru and His Grace this explanation. He explains that actually Guru is a principle, right? Guru is a principle of divinity. And now I'm remembering there's that wonderful quote, right, in Śrī Guru and His Grace. It's printed on the back, I believe it's printed on the back cover, right, saying that, and I'm sure many of you remember that. It's so eloquent. And in fact, Goswami Maharaj made an interesting, like, typographic video using that text. Let's find it now. It's one of the most wonderful pieces of writing that, that we could ever find. It's so eloquent. Let me find it right now on our Krishna Search website. Let's see. But he's explaining, right, that Guru is a function of divinity, right? When the finite is trying to make an approach towards the infinite, there must be some meeting point, right? And that is Guru, where divinity is coming down to help the finite in making their approach. Let's see how to find this
It says
quote.
to err is human.
Okay, you have it there.
Yeah.
I tried to search for to err is, here it is, here it is. To err is human. Yes, you know everything, Ramananda. These questions are good for all of us. Here it is. To err is human. To err is inevitable for all, being not perfect. Still, no one wants to remain imperfect. There is an element within all that is animate, that tends towards perfection. If it were not so, we would feel no want at all. Our tendency towards perfection is certainly very weak and limited. Otherwise, we could attain the goal at once. Our limited capacity and tendency for perfection makes room for the guide or guru. The imperfect is not so if it is not in need of help, and that also from beyond itself. The perfect is not perfect if he cannot assert himself or help others, and that too of his own accord. So the guidance to perfection or absolute truth is necessarily a function of the Absolute himself, and the divine agent through whom this function manifests is Śrī Guru, or the divine guide. I'm going to put this in our chat. It's a lot to absorb in just one hearing. Let's see our chat. But yeah, this is in Śrī Guru and His Grace. And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj is explaining, right? Guru is a principle. Guru is a function of divinity, of Krishna himself, right? And so that principle may be expressed through many persons, right? It's coming from the same, it's the expression is all coming from the same place, and that principle is one, but it's manifesting through different agents, appropriate agents, right? So I think that is how we can harmonize it. And it's a wide topic actually, because then we also can consider, right, different types of guru, right? Because there's the formal guru, the initiating guru, diksha guru, and then there's also shiksha guru, right? The instructing guru. And really, like, guru principle is very broad. Like, Krishna can appear through anyone's heart, right? And we hear in order to guide someone else, right? We could say guru means a via media through whom Krishna is revealing himself in response to the need and the heart of another soul, right? So guru is that meeting point, right? As Srila Maharaj is explaining there. And so that may appear anywhere, actually, right? And in Srimad Bhagavatam, may come even from a very unexpected place. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there's that section speaking about the avaduts, this realized soul, and he discusses 24 gurus, right? 24 gurus that he has. He's recognizing how divinity is revealing itself to him through different agents. Of course, that is a very advanced way to see things. It's not something we want to imitate. You can say, like, the more that we progress, the more broad of an understanding we will have of this concept. In the beginning, we may just say, oh, this person's my guru, and I'm only listening to them, right? I remember in my years in Navadip, there was, it's a kind of idea that, like, very beginner devotees have. And I remember one young boy in particular, he would only do it. He was a disciple of Acharya Maharaj, and he would only do something if he knew that Acharya Maharaj wanted it. Like it was very simple, very straight. And sometimes I might ask him to just do a simple thing, like, can you clean this, or can you bring this over? Like, well, does the Acharya Maharaj know? Like he had a very, very, like, simple concept of what that meant. I'm only doing directly what my Diksha Guru says. But once you mature, then you'll see that the voice of Guru is coming um, from different agents, right? And you'll have a more broad conception too of pleasing your Guru. His will may be indicated through another agent, but you don't need to have the written contract declaring. But yeah, so as our conception develops, then it will become more broad, and we'll see that the Lord is giving us guidance in different ways, right? And ultimately, in our lineage, in our group, there's more emphasis put on Shiksha Guru, right? Over and above Diksha Guru. The Diksha Guru, the initiating Guru, that may be only a formal connection, right? And then one may take their Shiksha, their source of inspiration, instruction, that may be someone else, right? And there are so many cases of that. Just now, we were just visiting we visited the Samadhi and also the Bhajan Kutir of Raghunath Das Goswami, and then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, his Bhajan Kutir is also there. And Vishwanath is important for us in many ways, but one interesting link to Vishwanath is the connection of Baladev Vijayabhushan, right? And Baladev Vijayabhushan, he is included, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur included him in our Sampradaya, in our Guru Parampara, even though he took initiation in a different lineage, right? Baladev Vijayabhushan, he took initiation within the line of Madhva Acharya, right? And we are a different sampradaya. We are Brahma. We're considered technically a branch of the Madhva line. But actually we're our own, it's Mahaprabhu Sampradaya, right? We are the Gaudiya. We are the Gaudiya Sampradaya. But so this Baladev Vijayabhushan, he took initiation within the line of Madhva Acharya. But then later he came in connection with Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and he felt, and hearing the Gaudiya conception, hearing the conception of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he felt, oh, this is something more developed, right? This is something higher. And so he ended up taking shelter. He ended up making this transition to the theology of the Gaudiya Vaishnava group. And he particularly took shelter under Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And so it's a very important point that Saraswati Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati included Baladev in our Guru Parampara, even though he was initiated in another lineage, right? Why? Because the Shiksha connection is all important, right? And so, in other words, wherever we find that there's a concentrated flow of revelation coming from above into our hearts and uplifting us, that is Guru, right? That is Guru. There's one place Srila Sridhar says, whoever is helping us to untangle the knots of mundane misconception, that is our Guru, right? Whoever is helping us in that way, that is our Guru. And yes, there's other types of guru too. We also hear about Vartma Pradarshak Guru. That means the guru who's pointing us in the direction, right? May not be someone who like, is giving us a great deal of nourishment or as an ongoing source of spiritual guidance, but they like helped set us on the right path, right? And one example given of that is Dhruva Maharaj, right? The young boy, like our little Arjuna who was just with us a few minutes ago. Dhruva Maharaj, he's like 5 or 6 years old, and it was his mother who first gave him the inspiration to worship Lord Narayan, right? And so he ended up going to the forest and of course originally his motivation was not so praiseworthy, but ultimately it developed into something much more, right? And he exclusively surrendered to the Lord. And he took initiation from Narada Muni, right? Narada Muni initiated him. But it was his mother who like first pointed him in the right direction and gave him that initial inspiration. And so his mother is described as his Vardhana Pradarsha Guru. Another very notable example of this is Chintamani, right, who was actually a prostitute who, for that, many of you know that story, famous story of Bilva Mangal Thakur, right? Bilva Mangal Thakur, who became this great Vaishnava poet saint. Originally, he was a great degenerate, living a very degraded life. And there was one prostitute he was very attached to. Her name was Chintamani. And there's that story, right? Many of you know he would go and see her every night. And one night there was this major storm, raging storm. And she thought, oh, he's not going to come tonight. No, but he was so desperate to see her. He like there's some elaborate description, right? How he like swam over um some like flooding river and climbed over a big wall and then finally finds his way to her door, knocks on the door, and she opens the door and she's completely shocked. It's thunder and lightning and everything going on. Um, and she's truly astonished. And so she says to him, "Oh, if you had like an inch of this type of devotion to the Lord, you would be such a great saint. You would be such a great devotee. If you could just give a fraction of this type of attachment, for the Lord, how great you would be." And that really like struck a chord with him. He really took it very seriously, and he ended up giving up his mundane life, and began a whole journey of spiritual evolution. Um, which, ultimately led to Krishna Bhakti, and he became a great Vaishnava saint and poet, right, as we said. So, but he actually, in one of his writings, he actually wrote, it's quite extraordinary. He actually wrote a pranam mantra to this prostitute Chintamani, glorifying her and saying how like she was the one who first set him on the right path. And so she's described as his Bhartma Pradarsha guru, right? He's also appreciating her as one of his gurus, right? And so we see, how we can see how that guru principle is expressing itself in so many different ways, right? And it's a wonderful thing. And one really interesting point in this regard is if you look at Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, right, which Srila Sridhar Maharaj describes as the greatest theological literature that's ever seen the light of day, you know, what's the very first phrase? Vande Gurun, right? Gurun is plural. Guru is singular. Gurun is plural. It is the Suvasini. We have a nice group, Suvasini Didis with us. Vijay and Soumya Sham have also joined. And we had a few others join. Axel Ananta Shesh is with us. Suvasini Didi, that is the very first line, right? Dandavat, Dandavat, Vijay. That's the very first phrase, isn't it? Of Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's Vande Gurun Isha Bhaktan, right? Um, oh, you're muted. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, Dandavats, yes, yeah.
Okay. It is. That's the very first line, isn't it? Vande Gurun Isha
I
Bhaktan.
think so. I think so. I'm not too sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna double check right now because I don't want.
Yeah, better check. Yes, yeah.
Okay, I'm opening up database. In any case, it's one of the very first lines, but I
Yeah.
think it is the very first line. Uh, okay. Yes, it is. Text one. It's the very first two words of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Vande Gurun. I offer my respects to my gurus, all of my gurus. Let's read it all, just since we have Vande Gurun Isha Bhaktan Isham Isha Avatarakam Tat Prakasham Tatak Shakti Krishna Chaitanya Samyakam. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual masters, the devotees of the Lord's incarnations, his plenary portions, his energies, and the primeval Lord himself, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. So this is the very first phrase, to all of my gurus. I offer my respects to all of my gurus. So guru is coming in different ways. Srila Sridhar Maharaj, also there's one place he's well, in a few places actually, but he refers to um Rube, Sanatan, they are Shastra gurus, he said. You don't hear about them like going out and giving mass initiation and leading, big communities and starting a nationwide movement. That's not their role, but he refers to them as Shastra gurus, the scripture, right? That they are scriptural gurus, that they're putting the message into writing for us for the sake of future generations. So that they are also our gurus, right? They have like a particular contribution, right, in the area of the written theology, right? The written message, having it perfectly recorded for the future, for the sake of souls like ourselves. So it is actually such a broad concept. And I think it's really like a kind of Western mentality, um, that there's kind of like a limited idea, you know, Because in India, you don't really find that, like often well, not so much in our community, but sometimes when you meet practitioners of Gaudiya Vaishnavas in other communities, they're, like their first question will be, who's your guru, right? And how many rounds do you chant? Those will be the first two questions. Um, but that's actually not, yeah, and Gurudev made the point once. He said, like, in the case of some of our great Vaishnavas in our line, it's actually difficult to find like who their Diksha Guru is. It's, I mean, like for example, I'm still not totally clear on like who is Rupa Goswami's guru. Like I have some idea that he took Diksha from Sanatan Goswami. I think that's what I've heard. Maybe someone here, maybe Subhasini or someone else can say. But that's not like something that we really hear. And like we're actually, Rupa Goswami is the head of our lineage, right? And another interesting thing is that Srila Sridhar Maharaj mentions in one place, he says Sanatan Goswami says in one place, he's also aspiring to be a Rupanuga, right? That he has a position as a guru to Rupa Goswami, whether or not he gave him Diksha. In either case, he had Rupa Goswami treated him like his guru. He's his senior, elder Vaishnava brother. Um, in the Indian culture, actually, the elders, they're also seen as a kind of guru, right? Especially like the father, older brother, like that. Um, so yeah, and so Gurudev said, like in the case of some Vaishnavas, it's difficult to find like who their initiating guru is because there's not an emphasis on that in the Vedic tradition, right? There's more of a broad idea, like where you are, who is guru is where you are getting heart's inspiration, may not be who you formally took initiation from. So it is a very broad concept, which is a wonderful thing, of course. So very nice topic of discussion that was brought up today by Ramananda Prabhu for all of our upliftment.
Thank
And
you very much, Vishaka Didi. Thank you.
Oh, thank you I'm glad that was appreciable for you. And another thing too is like this is something I was thinking about earlier today actually, is like we're trying to move into a mentality, and this is also connected with the principle of Paramahamsa Dharma, right? Like collecting good from everything, everyone, every circumstance, right? That we're trying to move into a space. I mean, we can't pretend to be there now, of course, but the world that we're going to, everyone's going to be our guru, right? It's the land of gurus, right? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he makes that point. We have to walk there. It's an expression, right? But he says we have to walk on our head because the soil is superior to us, right? Everything, everyone is superior to us. The soil is made of chintamani, conscious, wish-fulfilling, divine substance. It is of a higher nature. We are Tatastha Shakti. Our origin is from a lower plane, right? So there, the earth, Srila Sridhar Maharaj quotes this verse, right, from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Everything there is chinmoy, the earth, the water, the trees, everything. And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he says in his charming way, we have to walk there on our heads. We have to walk on our heads, And so, on one level, we're trying to shift into this type of vision, like, everyone is our guru. Like there's a world like that where everyone will be our guru. No, so like as much we want to see how we can learn, right, from everyone and from everything. And there are some persons who we may, we've seen different layers to their character, right? But they may have supported us greatly in other ways, right? There may be some persons who helped us deeply in developing our understanding of Krishna consciousness. Maybe they had some defect, which later disappointed us. This is what I was reflecting on today, but actually they formed an important part of our journey, right? That person is also a type of guru for us, and we can appreciate that, shine the light on that goodness, right? Shine the light on that which is appreciable about them. So, and that is Paramahamsa Dharma, right? Trying to extract the goodness, trying to extract the spiritual essence. Because this is the other thing, right? That everything negative, well, now I'm going into another little bit of a different topic, but everything that's negative, that's part of the shadow play. It doesn't have any real standing anyway, right? So what is of the spiritual aspect, right? What is of a higher aspect? That is real, that is lasting, that is sat, right? That is truth, that is eternal. And that which is asat, that which is a non-truthful manifestation, that is of a temporary, transitory nature. It will all vanish in the sands of time, right? So we're trying to enter this type of space, right? Yesterday we had this Bhagavad Gita meeting with our Japanese family on Wednesdays, and I'd like to read actually. These verses just kind of like blew my mind. Let me just rinse my hand. It was so profound that I had like a kind of revolutionary moment. It's in chapter 17. And, it's talking about the modes of nature, which, is, we're talking about Rupanuga Sampradaya, like I wasn't expecting to be so inspired. But I have this funny relationship with Bhagavad Gita, like, there's a part of like I like Prapana Jivanamrita, like Prapana Jivanamrita, Sharanagati, surrender, like this is the essence. And there's a part of me that is always so resistant to reading Bhagavad Gita. And I always have to push myself. But whenever I actually do it, I'm so uplifted by it. Like every time without fail, I go through the same thing, you know. Because, on one level, Bhagavad Gita is more general, right? It's not coming, of course, if you read it with a deeper eye, then there's so much more in there. But otherwise, it is more of a general scripture, right? It's in many ways helping us with, understanding like the building blocks, right? And then it's, from one perspective, like touching on devotion, but many of the deeper points of a life of devotion, they haven't been, that's being continued in Srimad Bhagavatam. But so I have this kind of resistance, but whenever I read it, it's just so purifying and so uplifting and inspiring. And so yesterday we went through chapter 17, the 3 types of faith. And there's this one section which was so wonderful. Probably Suvasini knows all these verses by heart. So Krishna is talking about these different types of austerity. It's very interesting. So he's speaking about austerity. We hear about this framework of these 3 layers of our mundane existence, right? Body, speech, mind, right? Mind, speech, body, kai, man, vak, right? This is the tridanda, right? Our sannyasis have these staffs or 3 sticks that represent dedication of mind, body, and words. These are like the three basic layers of our material existence. And so the idea is, right, we're trying to dedicate each of these aspects in devotion. And so in these verses, Krishna was speaking about austerity in terms of these three aspects. So austerity, what is austerity of body? What is austerity of speech? And what is austerity of mind? It was such a revolutionary concept for me. Like, I mean, I've read Bhagavad Gita a few times, but you forget things, and it's so fresh when you read it again. So it just felt so revolutionary. Austerity of the mind, right? Austerity of speech. It really kind of like helped me to see these points just from a different, fresh angle. I'm speaking here in connection with this idea of like how we're trying to adjust our consciousness, because it's actually a type of austerity, right? We have a particular blueprint, right? We all have our own individual blueprint, by which I mean patterns of thinking, right? Samskaras, right? We all have our own individual samskaras, like these imprints, patterns, um, of how we see things, how we react to different situations, our personalities and likes, dislikes, patterns of behavior, right? These are all our samskars. So in our spiritual practice, there's this element of austerity, in the sense that we're trying to regulate all these aspects of ourselves in connection with revealed truth. Like, oh, my instinct is to behave like this, to say this, to do this, to react like this. That's my imprint. This is how I want to respond to this or act right now. However, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, or my guru, they say this, right? Whatever it is, Trinada Pisu Nichena, right? Humility, tolerance, and respect, or don't do this, don't do that. So I'm going to regulate my behavior in accordance with that higher version of truth, right? So that's a type of austerity, right? But it was very interesting to see it discussed in this framework in Bhagavad Gita. So let me read this. It's very cool. Okay, well, I'll read all three, since it all came up. Worship. So first, austerity of the body, worship of the deity, the Brahman, the spiritual master, and the enlightened soul, purity, simplicity, celibacy, and non-violence. These all constitute austerity of the body. And so I read that and I thought, okay, yeah, that all makes sense. Then the next one is verbal austerity. Speech which does not disturb others, which is truthful, pleasing, yet beneficial, as well as regular recitation of the Vedas. All these are known as verbal austerity. And this, of course, reminds us also of the first verse of Upadeshamrita, Rupa Goswami's Nectar of Instruction, right? The very first verse, he's speaking about the 6 urges that every conditioned soul of this world has, right? Vacho Vegam, Manasakroda Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udaropasta Vegam, Etan Vegan Yo Vishahita Dira, Sarvam Apima Prithivim Sashishyat, right? So the urge of speech, this is the first one that he mentions. Then there's the urge of the tongue, the mind, the belly, and the genitals. Was that on Vacha, Manasa? And anger, and the urge of anger. These are the 6 like fundamental urges that every human being, conditioned soul, has to grapple with, right? And one who can overcome these, they will be very successful in their spiritual life. So Bhagavad Gita is also speaking here about this urge to speak, and so it's a type of austerity to try to control that speech, right, in a way that is positive, right, in the general sense, that is beneficial for others, which is also beneficial for ourselves, which is truthful, but also kind, right? Pleasing, it says. So it is a very nice meditation. Yeah, it's an interesting topic. Pleasing and also beneficial. Because, we don't just want to say, platitudes. We don't just want to make like empty glorification, right? And we also can't be too raw, right? And just like straight up say what we think. That could send someone to commit suicide, a worst case scenario, if you're too frank with them, that could break someone. So there's like some middle path, right? Where it's pleasing, but also truthful and beneficial to others, right? It's something of an art, actually. And this is reminding me also, this is yeah, going in a lot deeper, but some expression somewhere in the scripture, you hear Srila Sridhar Maharaj quote it in a few places. There's this injunction, Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat, Satyam apriyam ma bruyat, where it's saying, always speak the truth, always speak that which is pleasing. And then it also says, then it says finally, but never speak an unpleasing truth. So speak what is truthful, also speak what is pleasing. Don't speak something that is truthful but not pleasing, right? Because that's too harsh, that's too hard, that's too raw. So, and it's actually something Srila Sridhar Maharaj thought about profoundly, like for years, because Srila Sridhar Maharaj's nature is highly dharmic, right? He's born under the sign of Lord Ramachandra, who's the epitome of dharma. And dharma means righteousness, truthfulness, right? Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he even took a vow when he was quite young that he would never speak a lie, which he followed his whole life. So for him, like truth was everything. And he was puzzled by this statement. Like, okay, always speak truth. Okay. Always speak what is pleasing. Okay. But never speak an unpleasing truth. He was puzzled by that because for him, he thought truth is above all, even at the expense of being disturbing to others. Now, that was Srila Sridhar Maharaj's mood. And he actually thought about it. I think it was a period of some years. It was like years later. He like heard that. He didn't quite get it, put it on his shelf. And then it was years later where perhaps hearing, from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, hearing more of the conclusions of our gurus, he came to this realization that mercy is above justice. Right? Mercy, and that there's a higher truth than just the raw truth. That sundaram, beauty, is something higher. That which is beautiful, which is kind, which is merciful, that is a higher truth than what is conventionally to be considered truthful, right? It like just, very simple example. If a little child has drawn you a scribble and presented to you with so much joy and pride, what are you going to do? You're not going to say, oh, that's terrible. You're going to say, oh, it's a masterpiece. It's the greatest artwork I've ever seen. You're going to frame it and put it on your wall. And the thing is, parents, generally even mean it because under the influence of love, they're seeing it like that. They're so happy to frame it and put it on their wall because love is a greater truth than just, rational truth, right? Subjective, that's what I want to say. Subjective truth has more power, more meaning than objective truth, right? So these were the conclusions that Srila Sridhar Maharaj came to. think about it. Krishna Leela is a lie, right? Like, think about it. It's all based on a lie. Krishna is appearing as a little cowherd boy with parents, and he's naughty and all these things. It's all a lie in one sense, right? They don't know that he's God, right? But it's so they don't know that, but they're not knowing that he's God. They're jnana shunya bhakti. That's a higher truth than knowing, right? So it's a very interesting point. Right. They are also they are in yoga maya, right? Spiritual illusion. And that is a higher truth than having the objective awareness, right, of who Krishna is. So, yeah. Well, we went on a tangent there. So yeah, I had a whole reflection then about like the power of speech, the power of words. And, I mean, like, I think all of us have experienced saying something that we've regretted later. Maybe saying something that was truthful, but was not kind or was not pleasing or helpful. Sometimes being truthful is not actually helpful, you know, to a situation or helping someone to grow. That they might just need a hug or a pat on the head. But if you sit and give them, a 10-page analysis of their behavior and how they're dysfunctional in this way and that way, that might just kill them. It might not help them at all. So yeah, it just felt like a radical concept to me. Verbal austerity. Like, wow, we're practicing verbal austerity. We have to restrain, right? We have to restrain sometimes and really consider what's the appropriate thing to say in this circumstance. So these guidelines are very helpful. Then the third one, and this is the one which is like, wow, like, yeah, and this is still something I'm meditating on and trying to absorb. Mental austerity, which in the beginning I was like, what does that mean? Mental austerity. So I can only think it's like we're regulating our mental patterns, right? In accordance with revealed truth. Even at that, so we're getting like from gross to more subtle. So I'll read this. Self-satisfaction, benevolence, stability, mental control, and pure-heartedness are all known as mental austerity. Yeah, that was a groundbreaker for me. Yeah, it kind of feels like, I don't know if this will make sense to anyone, but like hearing it framed like this in Bhagavad Gita, it almost feels like you're getting some validation for trying, right? Because we hear about like, oh yeah, humility, tolerance, and respect, and all these things we're supposed to be, right, and do, and then we think, well, I'm not there. But it's almost like a type of validation that it's like Krishna is saying, yeah, I get it. It's an austerity. Like, yeah, it's okay. You're doing great. Yeah, it's an austerity. I know. It's like, yeah, it's because someone on a very high level, these are all just basic things. Like you don't even need to talk about it. That's just normal to be humble, to be self-satisfied, and all these things, mental control, stability. But we're not normal, right? We're in a different category. And so it's actually an austerity for us to try to be normal. Right. So it's like it feels to me like a pat on the head, like Krishna saying, yeah, it's an austerity. I know. Benevolence, right? To be generous minded, generous hearted, to be benevolent. This is a mental austerity. Yeah, it feels like there's validation for like being in this like middle point. Like, yeah, I'm trying to get there. You know, I'm trying to get there. It's a work in progress. And then Krishna says, when performed by a desireless, devout soul with deep faith in the Supreme Lord, this threefold austerity of thought, word, and deed is of the nature of goodness. So, some nice reflections from Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, Gurudev once recommended one chapter every day, right? It's very helpful for our spiritual life. Bhagavad Gita. All right. Well, we went on a whole track. We covered so many different things. I don't know how we got here. And it was a nice ride, I think. For
Oh,
me,
thanks for that, Vishaka Didi. Yeah, I've been reading also Bhagavad Gita. So sometimes it's very encouraging, but sometimes very confusing. Then you realize you're
sure.
nowhere.
Mm.
Yeah, we are beginners, beginning again and again.
Mm.
Yeah, thank you. I've been reading actually. Lord says, I am Bhagavad Gita. Yeah,
Oh, well, thank you for
thank you so
sharing
much.
that. Thank you, Ramananda. Does anyone else want to oh, Krishna Chaitanya you also joined. Dandavat Prabhu. Happy to have you. Does anyone want to add anything, any comment or question? I mean, Subhasini, did anything you'd like to add?
Not really, but it's nice, to reflect upon these austerities, actually. Thanks for bringing up for that, actually. Because you always think, up to the 12th chapter, you're okay. After that 12th chapter, 13, 14, 15, and all, it was not that, very
The
much
bhakti focused chapter.
bhakti focused.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is lots of, as he said, there are, we can get lessons everywhere. It's like, there's thoughts, to meditate on. So many points are there, which is, we just go over it, not deeply think about those things. But it's good to remember this. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, you really see the value of repeated, hearing, reading, right?
Yeah.
Because we can hear the same thing many times, but then there will be that moment where it just like hits you like, wow, like I
Yeah.
never saw it that way before. Uh, always fresh knowledge.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Practicing austerity, verbal and mental austerity, is to think about practicing all this. It's good to remind ourselves all this.
Mm. We are trying.
Yeah.
Gurudev, he would the Bengali word like chesta. I heard him say so many times, our chesta, our trying attempt. It must be perfect. We must continue with our trying.
Hmm.
Anyone else have anything to bring up? Oh, okay. See, Rishabhanavi put this in the chat as well. Thank you. Our limited capacity and tendency for perfection. Yeah, that's the key point. Thank you. Yeah, that's the key point. Our limited capacity and tendency for perfection makes room for the guide. Good. Very nice. Okay. Well, I'm here in Govardhan and different flows of devotees coming, going. And now we just had very nice family from USA arrive, and so doing another phase of parikrama. And we had a very today we visited we went to Govardhan a few days ago, and today we went to give respects at Radha Kund and Raghunath Das Goswami, and they brought up some very nice points and questions, and they it's their first time in India actually, and so they were asking me, one of their questions was, like, why do we actually come? you know because and it's, of course, it's an important question, because people come with all kinds of motivations, and the general kind of Vedic idea is that you're going to the holy places to give respects, and you're earning some sukriti, right? Some benefit, whether in a material sense or in a spiritual sense. There will be different angles of vision. And so they were bringing this up, like, what's actually the proper vision? Like, why are we coming here? And like, what are you thinking about, when you're coming here? And I said, actually, we're coming here to remember our gurus. That's the understanding that I have, that, these places, we can't think like these things are so meaningful to us, but they're meaningful to our gurus. And so we are honoring what is important to them, right? That, our guru, and we're coming to the shelter of our gurus, that this ashram, that we're not just here for spiritual tourism, but this is a particular shelter that was established specifically by our guru, Srila Govinda Maharaj. And so we're coming to take shelter. Otherwise, we don't really have any right to be here. This is, such a high place, but we're coming here to take the shelter that they've given to us. And we are coming to hear their teachings in a more profound way, to meet with the sadhus, who reside in these places, to hear their holy words, and to honor their vision, right, and their devotion. And so when we're, like when we're going to Radha Kund, for me, the most important thing is that, Raghunath Das Goswami stayed there, and he had a very particular, profound mood of devotion. We're remembering that and appreciating that, honoring that, right? As we've heard from our more immediate gurus, right? Srila Govinda Maharaj and Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And then another point too is just it's I feel very faith enhancing to be here and to see all these places brought to life, right? Not that we need to continually be doing that, but at least once in our life, I think it is very healthy for everyone. I think most of you have been to the Holy Dham. It's very faith enhancing to see, oh, this is where, the Govardhan Leela happened, right? All these things are very real. And anyhow, I think we talked about this last week too. I'm probably repeating myself. Anyway. But anyhow, I'm happy to be in good association with sweet devotees here. That's my news. Okay, well, maybe we'll stop there for today. Very happy to be in all of your good company. Virtual association. Really, it's really like a highlight in my week. So I'm really grateful for all of you. So grateful to modern technology that makes it possible. Okay, well, wishing you all an inspired week ahead. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga ki Jai, all the assembled devotees ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Itai Gaur Premanande. Tadibol. See you all next time. Jai Gurudev.